All right, so here we are, and I'd say we're boiling. A nice rapid boil. It's about 20 after, so that was 10 minutes it took to bring that to a boil. Hey, it's Greg here with Outdoors on the Cheap, and I thought I would do a video on the Coleman Stove. This was a type of stove for cooking, boiling water, that sort of thing when you're camping. That was fairly prevalent when I was a kid. Less popular nowadays. People are using butane and propane and that sort of stuff. These are a little bit more, I mean, they're not hard to operate, but they're slightly more hard to operate insofar as you don't just press a button and it works. But there's advantages to this type of stove and disadvantages. I'm going to talk about that. But the main reason I'm doing this video is because these, you can still buy these. I was at Canadian Tire, for those of people that don't live in Canada. It's sort of like a department store that sells a wide range of things, but a lot of camping sort of stuff, and Canadian Tire, car stuff. Anyway, I saw one of these for sale for $170 plus tax. So that's almost 200 bucks when you work in the taxes and all that sort of stuff. So you can still buy these. They still work exactly the same way. And maybe they improve them in some way, but the basic principle is the same. 170 bucks. You know where I found this? In someone's trash. Somebody threw it away. And I don't even know if it works. We're gonna try out here today. These are things you can get them at flea markets and yard sales and that sort of thing, estate sales, because people really, they're not very popular right now. So we're gonna open this up and see if it works. And I'm gonna also, give you a few tips on how to make sure one of these is safe to use and that sort of thing. And I'm not an expert on this stuff, so take everything I'm saying with a grain of salt. But just in terms of the checks and balances, I would exercise to make sure they're okay. Yeah, let's open this thing up here. So it's got these little things here that hold the lid on. It's like a briefcase, right? You can put a number of things in there, hold stuff. These aren't much use for, backpacking. This is a sort of stove you would use for if you were camping, out of the back of your car, your camper, relatively close to your vehicle, or out of an ATV, or if you were you're going along in a canoe and you didn't have too many portages, and you could just sort of throw everything in the canoe. These have a bit of weight to them. But they come into their own because they're just so handy to use, and there's other reasons that they're advantageous as well. Anyway, you put these underneath and you get legs. All right, so one of the neat things about these is that it's like a briefcase, right? Got these wind shields that you can, adjust and set to keep wind out, because it just works better if there's no wind. To whatever extent you can block the wind, it improves the operation of the stove. If there's no wind, you don't have to think about that. Got a little grate, which is handy, because if you're out camping, you can also put this over your fire and use it for, barbecuing shish kebabs or whatever, hot dogs or whatever you're up to. So you extra purpose here. But it's got this canister that comes with it. Now, how this stove is different than other stoves is that you pour the fuel in here and then you pump it up like that. You have to put there's a hole on that little thing there. You have to put your thumb over it when you're pumping. You have your thumb over the hole and you're pumping like that. And what you're doing is you're adding air pressure, actually oxygen and air pressure to the liquid that's in here. And that creates, it becomes a gas by means of how the stove works. So this thing goes in here like this. This thing fits in there. You got little tabs here that go in these little slots. And it stays in there, okay? You put the grate on. And then you light it. And they all have different designs. This one here has got they usually have one setting for lighting it and another setting for operating it. Some of them have a little thing that goes up when you light it and down when you don't light it, or sort of up when you light it and down when it's operating, what they call light, burn, with two settings, one for burning and one for lighting. This one here has just got different settings on the dial for that, where it says light here and low, high, that sort of thing. So I got this one for nothing. It was in somebody's trash. So I don't even know if it works, to be honest with you. So first step for me is just testing whether this thing's airtight. You can't have air escaping anywhere here, right, once it's under pressure, because if that's the case, you've got a very flammable mist coming out of the thing, and it's a bomb, right? So all I'm going to do here is I'm going to pump this up To pump it up, you just hold your thumb over this hole here. Give it a turn towards yourself, whether that be counterclockwise, and pump. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. That's probably good for a test anyway. Now I'm just going to spray some stuff around here. See if there's any suds forming anywhere, especially around this cap here, right? I don't really see any. I mean, there's suds from just the liquid, but I don't see anything gurgling or happening. Seems to be okay. Seems to be okay to me. I'll just wipe that down. Just like if when they are checking your tires to see if there's a leak, right? It's kind of obvious where that's happening. Seems to be all right to me. Do a little hearing test. I don't hear anything. Certainly when you open it up, you hear sound coming out of there. This probably has some old fuel in it, so just take the cap off here. We've emptied this out as well as we can. All right. I'll assume this thing works. Now you can get the fuel in a big can like this, but I find these tend to, they don't pour very clean. That is to say, they don't pour well. They make a mess when you pour them out. So it's worth your while to have the stuff in a small bottle. I'm not saying that a Coke bottle is the right thing to put this fuel in or a safe means to transport or anything like that, but you want a small fuel bottle because it's just something that pours well. And you also, you can keep this inside. You always want to have a funnel in the kit because it's, you don't want to be getting this highly flammable fuel all over the place when you're pouring it in, right? You want a nice clean operation. Another advantage of these things is that all the parts, or many of the parts, are very replaceable. These caps are usually the first things to wear out. There's a seal there. The seal has to be intact for the thing to work right. Anyway, I'm going to put about half this bottle in here. One of the great things about the Coleman stove is that you know how much fuel you've got left. I know I've got some in here and I got this much more, right? With a propane canister, you just don't know what you've got left, or butane for that matter. You can make a guess based on the weight, but with this you can literally see how much fuel you've got left over, right? So that's an advantage. Okay, put the cap on tight. Get the fuel away from the stove. And now we start pumping. I would say 40. All right, so we got 40 there. Grab our lighter. It's got a setting here. It says light. Put it on light. Have it on light for a minute, like about counting to 30 sort of thing. It will tend to burn a bit weird and sound dangerous. Let's put it that way. It'll sound dangerous when it's warming up, but then it'll calm down. The sound of it will change, and it'll start really burning like a propane stove. It'll have that look and it'll have that feel. I mean, you can wait for a minute, or you can just sort of listen for it to calm down. Once it calms down, you take it off the light mode and go to, this is high, that's low. So I usually have it on its highest settings. You can see you can adjust it, low, high. Never put it on light once it's warmed up, okay, because it can just, it'll start behaving in a very strange way. And if these things ever start burning really weird, making all kinds of noise, making huge flames, you just turn it off and close the lid. you know, pull this thing out sort of thing, hope for the best. But that's running just fine now. So now I thought we'd see how long it takes to cook this. I got 7 cups of water here, which is, you know, the recommended amount for most, by most survival type guys. 7 cups of water. You boil this the night before you go to bed. That's your water for the next day. When you wake up in the morning, you make 7 cups of water for tea or coffee. You drink all of that just in camp. And the water you boiled the night before, which is nice and cool in the morning, you put that in your water bottle and you use that for the day if you're canoeing or whatever you're doing out in the woods, right? But let me just get my watch here, make a note of the time. So it's 10 after 11, 11:10. So we'll see how long this takes, and we'll see. I'm going to empty the fuel back out. We'll see how much of the fuel it took to boil 7 cups of water. So we'll see in a few minutes. All right, so here we are, and I'd say we're boiling in a nice rapid boil. And I'll check the time here. That was, it's about 20 after, so that was 10 minutes it took to bring that to a boil. All right. Now a couple other things I'm going to mention here. I'm just going to turn this down a bit. I'll take that off. I'm not really making tea or coffee or anything, I'm just boiling that for the sake of demonstration. Another great thing about this stove is you got the 2 burners. Once you've got this one burning properly and you've done that whole process of doing the light setting and then the burn setting, you've got another burner over here. There's a little tab here, turn it counterclockwise, sometimes it's a bit stiff. And you can light that up too. Right, so, you know, we've got fire here, right? I don't know how well you can see that. You can open it up as much as you want. Here, you can open that up. Right? Right, so you got 2 burners, so you can be doing your coffee over here and your bacon and eggs over here, that sort of thing, right? So nobody has to wait. That's the great thing about having a 2-burner stove. So that's how this one works. All right, so you got the dial here. It's on off right now. Whatever one's pointing up is the setting, right? So it's on off right now. You put it to light when you want to light it, and high once you want to operate it. Once you shut it off, it'll still, you know, operate for a couple minutes. Just there's still a bit of fuel left in there, so don't get nervous. Just understand that once you shut it off, the flame's going to flicker and burn for another 30 seconds or so before it gives up. That's just the way these things work, right? But yeah, that's basically how they work. That little lever I was showing you is down here. This thing here, you just turn it counterclockwise to, counterclockwise? Yeah, you turn it counterclockwise to, you know, get it to start giving up, the gas to coming out. Once this one's lit and burning properly, then you light the other one. Okay, that's how it works. Light this one, get it going. Once it's going properly, light that one, if you're going to use 2 burners. So there you have it, the old Coleman stove. This one was probably from the 80s, I would guess. I don't know if it says anywhere on here, but it's not the older. I've got another one that's like from the 60s or 70s or a different design. This one looks a little bit more modern. As long as these are in proper working order, I mean, they're safe to use. You can't use them indoors. Do not use them indoors. Use it for outdoor use, right? And they're no good for, you know, ultra lightweight hiking or anything like that. You would not want to have one of these things strapped to your back, right? This is for ATV, camping by a car, by a canoe. One of the main tips I would say is keep a funnel in the kit, right? When you pack it up, have a funnel in there with everything else, because it's certainly the canister of fuel that it comes with. When you try to pour out of this, it gets stuff everywhere. You don't want that. So, you know, use a funnel and ideally have some smaller thing that's, you know, safe for having fuel. And I'm not saying a Coke bottle is safe. I'm just using this for demonstration purposes in this video. You know, some smaller thing like that. I doubt we've used much fuel here. Let's just take this out. See how much. So the fuel is pretty close to the neck. I would say it would be right there when I first filled it. sure we're going to lose a little bit just by virtue of releasing the gas here. But hopefully we don't get stuff everywhere by pouring this back out. You wouldn't normally pour it back out like this, but this is just for demonstration purposes. Only do this when you know there's no flames anywhere. It's a very volatile gas or fuel. This stuff loves to burn. Naphtha, it's called. All right, so I think I got most of that out. So we started off about here, or about there. I'd say we probably used a quarter cup. What's that, 50 milliliters, give or take, to boil 7 cups of water, right? Roughly, what is that? 1, 2, 3, 4 cups of water is a liter. 2 liters, or some thereabouts. They basically, a good pot of coffee or the amount of water you need during the day. I mean, there's different people that argue about how much water you need, but survival expert Morris Kohansky says that 7 cups of water is the right amount, sort of thing, for a day's worth of hiking and stuff like that. You boil 7 cups of water at night before you go to bed, and you've got that for the next day. It's going to be nice and cool in the morning. In the morning, you boil 7 more cups. You make your coffee or your tea, have that with breakfast, drink all of it, and so you've got about 14 cups of water a day per person. I use that approach. It works perfectly fine for me. I've never found myself overly dehydrated. I suppose if you were in a desert or you're exerting yourself heavily, that might change, but that's the general approach I use. It seems to work just fine. So anyway, the Coleman Stove, great little rig. These cost almost $200 brand new, but you can get them at yard sales for 10, 20 bucks, $5 sometimes, or if you're lucky like me, literally find it in someone's trash. Learn how to, if you want to save a few bucks and you want something like this, go for it. Learn how they work, read about them. They last for years and years and years. The parts are usually replaceable. You can basically take the different, you can replace the cap, you can replace various parts of the valve. They're fairly maintainable, and they really, unless you leave them outside, they last a long time. They seem to work just because of the way they're made. They're like in the old days, things were built to last, right? So yeah, Coleman Stove. So I hope you found that interesting. If you did, please like, share, subscribe. And until next time, enjoy the outdoors on the cheap. Thanks for watching.